A major engine of our economy is back on track today.
Railroad companies and union workers reached a last-minute deal to avoid a strike, knowing a potential shutdown could have meant higher prices on just about everything that you buy.
Every good that you need seems to end up on a rail getting delivered to where it needs to go.
The question now, is the deal a long-term solution or just a temporary Band-Aid? Let's dig into it. For 20 long hours, both sides came to the table and they hammered out a deal to keep America's trains moving.
Yeah, they literally worked all night at the table, and in the end, both sides were able to reach an agreement. I'm Tanya Rivera.
And I'm Ben Briscoe. We're going to dig into the new agreement and its impacts on your family.
By the way, they're still standing. They should be home in bed. 20 straight hours, and I want to thank both business and labor.
President Joe Biden announced the deal to prevent a strike from the Oval Office. Workers will get an immediate 14% raise, with a total raise of 24% over the course of the 5-year deal. The union says they'll also get annual bonuses of $5,000 and keep their healthcare copays and deductibles unchanged. All workers will get an extra day off and have the ability to take off for medical reasons. Steps to address quality of life concerns one of the union members shared with us during the negotiations.
You got people that have missed their kids being born because of the pandemic, because they've been out there hauling the United States freight. You've got guys, even myself, have went through divorces in the past 2 years due to the industry, how it operates, and the stress of it.
This agreement is validation what I've always believed. Unions and management can work together. For the American people, this agreement can avert the significant damage that any shutdown would have brought. Our nation's rail system is the backbone of our supply chain. Today is a win, and I mean this sincerely, a win for America.
This video right here from Patrick DeHaan with Gas Buddy shows why the new agreement is such a big deal. He says this train was hauling tens of thousands of barrels of crude oil right through the Midwest. DeHaan says if a railroad strike had lasted more than a few days, we might have seen gas prices rise by up to 75 cents per gallon. And it's not just fuel. 30% of all U.S. freight shipments would have been impacted if there was a strike. That includes the grain imported into North Carolina for livestock farmers and the agriculture products exported from our state too. Here's how a transportation expert or two said the strike would have impacted you.
Strike, theoretically, all of those would stop. There's no way that trucking by itself can take up that slack. That equals a supply chain that's already stretched might just finally break.
There's just no question that it would be extremely devastating, and its impacts would compound very rapidly over a couple of days.
So today's deal means hopefully we avoided all of that, but all the union members still have to vote on that plan. Union leaders do expect it to pass.
Obviously, you never get everything you want. There's other things we would like to have accomplished, but I think part of bargaining, you have to learn how to say yes at a certain point when you know you got everything you're going to get, and I think we did that.
If for some reason the plan does not pass, union leaders agreed to a cooling off period before negotiations could start again, meaning there will be no strike at least for a while. Union leaders also want to point out that President Joe Biden played a big role in helping both the sides come together to reach an agreement.
Last night he called and just wanted to see what we were doing, how we're doing, what's the issues. It was pretty much a what can I do. We just came from a function over at the White House where he had management and labor. So politics may be partisan, but I think this president was encouraging both sides of the equation to get this done for the sake of the infrastructure, for the sake of the supply chain, because strikes are catastrophic as we crawl out of a pandemic.
The possible strike by rail workers is one of several union strikes that has made headlines recently. Whether it's teachers or nurses or other groups striking across the country, folks online say it seems like there's been more talk about unions recently. It may seem like it, but is that really true? Let's verify. A recent Gallup poll, which shows 71% of Americans approve of labor unions, that's the highest percentage since 1965. But is that support for unions translating into any increase in actual union membership? Let's verify. Our sources, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Harvard Business School, and Nelson Lichtenstein, a labor historian at UC Santa Barbara. Since 1983, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has tracked what percentage of American workers are in a union. In 21, it was 10.3%. That's actually an all-time low. It did slightly increase in 2020, but that was because when COVID hit and layoffs ensued, well, they disproportionately affected non-union workers, whereas a higher percentage of unionized workers kept their jobs. When the recovery began and non-union workers returned, the percentage went back down. Harvard has data going back further, which shows a membership peak of more than 30% in the early 60s, but it's been steadily declining ever since. So we can verify, no, an increase in support for unions has not translated into an increase in union membership. But labor historian Nelson Lichtenstein says that's not surprising.
There is no correlation between popular support for unionism and the actual growth of unions.
He says in the mid-20th century, it was generally accepted that the preeminent industries of the time, like automaking, were almost entirely unionized. But over time, membership declined for a variety of reasons. And now in today's biggest industries like tech, there's no cultural expectation of organized labor.
So the big takeaway from today is that our country has avoided another major disruption to the supply chain, at least for now.
Yeah, and that is a bit of good news.